you're just the awareness, full stop. So almost like there is no thought. It's just it, and it. I start saying it as an affirmation. I start saying I am the awareness behind the thoughts. And when I said it, I mean, I feel like we're in a Netflix special when we're in the outside world, right? We're in this, I don't like to use the word chaos because I find it a bit cliched. Every teacher or all of us, we're going around saying chaos. Therefore, I think we're contributing to the chaos in a weird way, even though we don't mean to,
People are waking up in the largest numbers ever in history, I believe, to these extraordinary powers that have been hidden from us for generations. And I really do truly believe that this is a very exciting time in history.
And then I heard a voice say to me, turn the other cheek. And I said, when I was a kid, I used to hear that phrase that Jesus said, supposedly. And I always thought it was a bit weak. And the voice said to me, it's not weak. It's about turning the cheek, giving no attention to that.
Yeah.
No attention. And then when you turn the cheek, you focus on where you're going. And that's the real definition of turning the other cheek.
Welcome to The Wellness Way with me, Philly J. Lay, a layperson's guide to your natural health systems, your very own NHS.
Hello, lovely people, and this is a really exciting episode of The Wellness Way because I'm on my first tour. The Wellness Way is in Ireland. I just cannot believe that I'm doing this. My passport ran out in 2020 and I swore I'd never get another one. But sometimes something really exciting happens in your life that takes you on a journey. And the universe, and I talk about the universe and being a shit hot manifester the whole time, but this really is the ultimate. I'm in Ireland and I'm going to introduce you to my guest today, Mr. Paul Congdon. And I was just about to say Condon because he told me this story about how his name was read out at an airport as Paul Congdon. Congdon. No, now I'm...
Now she's done. Now you've done it. Now you've done it. Just call me Paul Contraceptive, yeah.
So Paul runs something called Positive Life here in Ireland. And he's going to tell you a story about the guest that he had last night speaking. And he's just going to, please tell us what happened and how you met this guest.
It was a pretty cool story, actually, yeah. It's like you just said, shit hot manifester, and this is totally shit hot manifestation. I'm sitting at home and I'm researching an article on water. And this lady comes on with a heavy Australian accent talking about putting Celtic salt under your tongue to allow the water to absorb directly into the cells. And I'm very enthusiastic when I research stuff, because I'm into health, I love it, little tips. And I thought, I never heard that before, so I'm going to start taking the salt with the water, grand. And literally 2 hours later, I go to the Happy Pear, which is where you were today for your lunch. And I'm standing in the Happy Pear and I'm buying some stuff in the grocery store and I hear an Australian accent. And it's a bit like the one I just heard on YouTube. And I say, well, it couldn't be the same person. And I turn around and it is the same person. But then I say to myself, maybe she just looks like her. So I walk over and I say, excuse me, are you the lady who goes on about the salt? And she went, I am, mate, yeah. And I say, are you Barbara O'Neill? And she goes, I'm Barbara O'Neill. And I just go, oh my, I just saw you 2 hours ago. And I said, do you want to do an interview? And we kind of hooked up. We had a chat. We did an interview in a hairdresser's in Wicklow, which was hilarious. And I set up a bit like what you're set up here. I interviewed her, had a lovely conversation. The woman's wisdom about health is just unbelievable, unbelievable. And then 6 months later, her manager says, do you want to do a gig in Dublin? She's coming to do a tour. I thought we might get a 50, 100 people. Last night we had 600 people and 300 people online. And you were there. And we had the most beautiful venue, a church in Dublin. And it was just fantastic evening, So that's just... It's kind of like we're in the like a divine plan and we just have to go with the flow, right?
I know. So I'm going to tell you how I'm here. First of all, I posted something about one of Barbara's clips on my story on Instagram. and some lovely person sent me a comment and said, my sister's going to see her live in Dublin. And I'm like, oh my God, can you send me a link? Can I get a ticket? She said, it's sold out. Then you change venues. Somebody told me straight away, and I got the tickets. I had no passport. I didn't know how I was going to get here. But I'm like, okay, I'm going to be in Dublin for this talk. And I thought, after the talk, I'm going to invite her on my podcast. I didn't know that Barbara does her slot and then she goes straight away. There isn't a chance to meet her. But I was invited to speak and do meditations at the Jam for Freedom Festival this summer. And this lovely lady came up to me and said that, thank you for the work that I was putting out. And I said, I love your accent. I'm going to come to Ireland and see Barbara O'Neill talk. And she went, my friend's organising it. I said, are you kidding me? And she said, no, give me your number and your email and I'll put you in contact. And she did. And you've had help from the beautiful Jenny organising this.
Yeah.
And Jenny emailed me. And within a week, we were just like, yep, let's do this. Let's do this. And then I made contact with you and I said, I want to interview you as well. And it's just been this whirlwind. And, we've had a few little problems. The venue had to change, and I don't know if you want to talk about that or not, but some venues get cold feet when people talk about natural health. And you've been in this game for quite a while, and we'll come to that. But are you seeing more people hesitant to help spread the word about natural health?
This is the first kind of experience I've had. There was one experience I had a number of years ago with breatharianism, which is quite a topic, and we came across a bit of kind of flack then, but that's probably very out there, so I kind of understood it, you know what I mean? You're telling people not to eat food, it's a bit nuts.
Sorry to interrupt this podcast. Why don't you come and sign up to my newsletter at phillyjlay.com, where we can keep connected and we can talk about lots of things going on in the world. You will also get my free manifestation meditation so you can become a shit-hot manifester too. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share. And turn your notifications on so you never miss an episode. Thank you.
But I'm the type of person who will explore anything. I just believe in freedom of speech, openness. I mean, you can't go we have to talk about everything, So when we did this event and it was shut down, people complained about Barbara's work. I was kind of a little bit gobsmacked at the beginning. I kind of was, because I haven't seen it in Ireland like that, There's something new coming in the form of censorship that I haven't really seen. And it seems to be about now alternative medicine. And I shouldn't even call it alternative medicine. No. It's just natural medicine. Really.
We didn't alter nature.
Yeah, exactly. It's just natural medicine, nature. And why would you come after that? It's just the most basic foundation of life, But, I feel like it's a challenge. It's a new vibe. But I'm up to the challenge, because there's some kind of guidance going on here. People who work in this area, we're all finding our tribe. We're all finding our own inner power. And we're not for turning, it's just, you just can't, you're just focused on where you're going and you're going.
And we're all meeting up, and it's quite extraordinary how we're all meeting up. And, the universe is incredibly good at putting us in the right place at the right time and wanting to get this information out. So I want to ask you, first of all, Paul, because I know very little about you and I've been able to find out very little about you. So can you tell us something about your story as to how you came on board as editor for Positive Life? You must have been on a journey to take you there.
Yeah, I was typical Irish man, drinking, having fun in Ireland and, in all the bars, having the crack, as we call it here. And it got a little bit old. There was a kind of a rave scene here. There was a nightclub scene. And I was about 33 years of age, which is funny because it's the age of our Lord, I think, when we say our Lord because we were all brought up as Catholics, Jesus, And I was just 33 and I kind of got a bit disillusioned. And then I got really extreme anxiety. I came out of a relationship, was feeling very wobbly. I end up in Spain and I go to this beautiful place, Tarifa it's called. But I was very shaky. I was losing weight. I was not centered in my body and I was really thrown. And I didn't really know much about the holistic world or spirituality or healing. And I saw an ad for a Reiki session. And I thought, my cousin at the time, she said, why don't you go? It might relax you. And that night I went to a party and I was sitting on the beach. There was an open fire, a fire on the beach. And there was a blonde lady with blue eyes that I can only describe that I thought it would be safer to sit in her general area. That's what I felt like. I didn't feel safe in the world. So I sat in her area and I just felt a bit better. And I looked at her and I thought she looked quite striking. She was probably about in her 50s at the time. I was in my 30s. The next day I go for the Reiki session and there's a tent on a beach and I'm sitting outside with a pair of shorts. And next thing the door opens and it's that lady. And I just thought, I saw her at a party last night, very spooky, and I felt a bit weirded out. And I went inside and she put her hands on me, and I was in a depression, like a proper depression. She put her hands here, and a smile came involuntarily to my face. So the energy took over, and I'm smiling, and I couldn't understand why I was having all these thoughts, but yet I was smiling. So she did the session, and at the end of the session, she said to me, you're going through a very hard time, but you have a beautiful heart. Now that felt like an intimate compliment that was too intimate at the time. I couldn't handle it. I just went, that's a weird thing to say to someone. And she said, well, it's true, and your heart will carry you through. And I went to that lady every day for 7 days. I was addicted to Reiki. And when I left her, I said to her, would you recommend anything I could do? And she said, read Conversations with God.
With God, yes.
And from then on, I became a Reiki master. And I don't like to say master, but I studied Reiki extensively. And I read those books, and my whole life just turned.
It's extraordinary that once you open this door, and I've described it before as going down the rabbit hole, and then there's a whole warren below. But once you open this door, and what an amazing book, Conversations with God, and you start learning these, and you learn the extraordinary powers that we have as human beings. And once you know this, you can't unlearn it. It's there. It's in your mind, and you see those serendipitous moments, and you kind of just go, I call them my what the fuck moments. When they start happening, you just go, what the fuck, what the fuck, what the fuck, and they just keep coming, layer on layer and layer. So you had this awakening, and then what brought you back to Ireland, and how did you come into positive? How did you know about Positive Life?
Positive Life's a really interesting story too. I worked as an actor and I had a great, like a corporate job as well. So I kind of had the best of both worlds. So I could do my art and get paid well at the same time, because the job was part-time, but they paid me well. I was in sales, So I always had a good kind of gift of the gab, as we call it here. I could talk, I could do business with people. And basically I was invited to a talk with Deepak Chopra. He was doing a talk in the National Concert Hall. And I was into spiritual stuff at that point. So I went along, and I saw a pamphlet on the table, and the name of the pamphlet was Positive Life. And I just got kind of goosebumps, and my hairs on the arm stood up, and I thought, that's a beautiful name, And I thought, I'd like to read that. And I went over and I spoke to the lady, and she said, do you know anyone who can sell ads in a magazine? And that's what I was doing at the time, but for the corporate world, And I said, that's what I do. Do you need someone? And she said, yeah. And I remember saying to her, actually, you just manifested me, and I think I manifested you. And she looked at me and laughed. Yeah, it was like a really pivot, as you say, what the fuck moment, And the interesting part of the story is that I started the magazine in 2000. I bought the magazine from her. She sold it on to me after about a year of working with her, for a year and a half maybe. I took the magazine over, and I was working on it a year later. I was working on it from 2007, and then I think it was 2008. And we had just interviewed Deepak Chopra, and he was on the cover of the magazine, and I was writing my intro, and I only remembered that it started at a talk with him. So in the intro I told this story, and I said, and now it's come full circle because Deepak's on the cover. And I remember just getting another kind of, amazing moment and thinking, Jesus, it's come full circle, Because I'm a bit like yourself. I asked you earlier, you ask anybody to interview you, you just go for it. And I started asking all the big teachers. I started asking Louise Hay, Deepak Chopra, Eckhart Tolle, and they all said yes.
And they all said yes.
They all just thought there was this quirky Irish fella asking them for interviews. Remember once they said to me, it's refreshing not to have the American type of style. You're just coming in with a nice energy and asking us kind of different questions. And I just, since then it's snowballed, and we've interviewed, I think I've had one of the most incredible educations in the spiritual world. To talk to Eckhart Tolle for 2 hours, or Deepak, or Louise Hay.
Louise Hay.
I mean, amazing.
Oh, wow. I mean, Louise Hay is somebody that I won't be able to interview, sadly,
Well,
along with Wayne Dyer, unless they want to tune in, which they will, I believe. Yeah. But I'm not quite there yet. So what is Positive Life, and how can people find your work and your talk? So just, because from that description, it sounds like a magazine. I know you have a magazine, but there's an awful lot more to it. So can you just let our audience know what it is and what kind of body of work that you put out, and how people can join in with that across the globe? Because it's not just in Ireland. So that's what I really want to get across to everybody.
Yeah, sure. So I suppose the whole ethos is that, what you focus on is very important. What we focus on is very important. So my whole feeling was that we need good news in the world, just on a very simple basis. How much good news is there in the world?
Not a lot.
Uh-huh.
Well, there is a lot of good news, but it's hidden from us.
Yeah, I remember, do you know Abraham Hicks? You know those guys?
Yes.
They're like a channel, and I remember they said that if you compared the amount of good news in actuality to the amount of bad news, it's like bad news is a blip. Because the good news is someone smiled at someone had a baby, someone fell in love, somebody went for a pint. This is good news, you know, but we don't broadcast it. We broadcast all the other stuff. So I just thought, can we fill the gap? Can we talk about healing? Can we talk about spirituality? Can we talk about yoga? Can we talk about all these things? Put them in a magazine, call it Positive Life. And these are the ingredients to a positive life, sustainability. And I don't mean sustainability in terms of climate change. I mean sustainability, your own responsibility for this beautiful planet and how you want to, be in a relationship with her. And all of that just went into this magazine. And I remember, the magazine kind of has a consciousness of its own in a weird way. It tells me the theme now. The recent theme, I'll give you an example, was inner peace. And when I was putting it together, I thought, will I interview some big meditation teacher? And they said, no. I kind of hear this, it's like an intuition. And they said to me, you're going to write about the microbiome. And I said, what's that got to do with inner peace? And they said, it's the ultimate inner peace. It's your inner bacterial colony that basically eats all your food. You're not eating for yourself, you're eating for them. So they are, if you keep
your
them
tribe,
happy.
Your army, and you've got to keep them healthy.
If you keep them happy, you'll have peace, because they release, did you know they release serotonin?
Yeah.
They release oxytocin.
Yeah.
Incredible, right? So the magazine has been such an education, but what I did around it was I built these events, and I called them Buddha Bag back in the early days. And we would have maybe 100 people come and sit on bean bags, and we would bring people in. I had people there with crystal skulls. I had holistic architects. I had a man who had a house in the shape of a womb. I had people channeling aliens. And it was just a Thursday night in Dublin. And I used to say, this is better crack than going to the pub for a change. And we would gather. It snowballed. And now we call them Positive Nights. And the last couple of years, they've really developed into bigger events. Lee Harris was with us there recently, Bruce Lipton. And we're planning to we had Barbara last night, and Teal Swan is coming in a couple of weeks. And I just love, years ago it was the teacher and we were all listening to the wisdom of the teacher. Now I feel the audience and the teacher are on the same level, and we're just gathering in a kind of a celebration of life, just this beautiful, going outside the normal mainstream, if you know what I mean. Not that there's anything wrong with the mainstream, but just... this kind of, when we gather, it's almost, you felt it last night when we gathered, it's just a magic in the air. It's like a beautiful frequency that people share,
Well, we are energy, and we're giving off energy the whole time, and it was magic, because everybody that was there, I think there were 2 protesters rocked up.
Was there? Okay.
Apparently, but so somebody told me, but everybody that is there, we all want to learn. And I think this is a really crucial moment in history. And people have had enough. They've discovered the lies, and even if you don't want to wake up to the lies yet, because it is a really big ask to say to somebody, do you know everything you've been told is just rubbish?
I know, yeah.
And you have to question all of those times that you went to a doctor as a child, all the time your mum said, just take this medicine, you're going to be okay. Everything that you learnt at school. And I don't know what I call God. I mean, I call God the universe. And some people, Barbara is obviously very religious, and you come from a very religious background, and we will get on to that. But, some people call it source, some people call it the field, universe, whatever you want to call it. But once you learn to connect with it, it is magical, just magical. And it answers. And the vibration that you put out is the vibration that you get back. Mm-hmm. And, you've interviewed some massive names. I'm lucky enough to have interviewed some massive names. And, you said I don't have the fear to ask them. Did you ever have the fear to ask them when you started?
Not really, no, because it's part of the Irish culture that, we ask, we have what we call neck, do you use that expression in the UK?
No.
We have neck, we'll go for it, and see what happens, I mean, I had fears about whether, I said this to you earlier, whether I could actually ask the right questions. And I managed to let go of that because I felt that was just my ego kind of making it about me. Do you know what I mean? It's not about you, really. It's just about the wisdom. Now when I see Barbara go on stage and I'm organising this, I don't have any sense of ownership of it. I just feel like, wow, what a privilege to do this, Mm. I can't believe I'm doing it,
I can't.
It's kind of nuts,
I'm kind of sitting here pinching myself, kind of going, oh my God, I never thought in a million years that this would happen. And the people, let's talk about some of the people that you have interviewed and their innate wisdom. And I'd love to start with the beautiful Louise Hay. How did that come about, and what wisdom? Because you're here to, in the same way that I am, we're here to share other people's wisdom. We're here as a kind of a coordinator, if you like, just to make sure that information is getting out any way we can. So tell me about...
Are you a big fan of Louise?
I am a massive fan of Louise Hay.
Yeah, she's quite a goddess, I think, and still is, of course. But so I was I was here in Dublin. Basically, I thought to myself, imagine having her on the cover of the magazine, That would just be nuts. And I met a lady who was doing her course, Heal the Life, I think it's called. And I said to her, I want to interview Louise Hay. And she said, I'm kind of good friends with her. And I said, do you think you could wangle that for me? And she said, I'm in LA next month and I'm going for lunch with her. But she said, would it be okay if I interviewed her on your behalf? And I said, whatever you can do. So she rang me a week later. She said, I've asked Louise. I told her it's an Irish magazine. She's agreed to do it, but it has to be me doing it. So she recorded herself doing the interview with Louise Hay for Positive Life, basically, and I was happy with that. And we got the recording over, and I remember this was her last interview. I think she passed maybe 6 months or a year afterwards. Oh, wow. I'm not sure. I think she was 80 at the time. And I remember this is the queen of affirmations, right? We called her the queen of New Age, I think, on the front cover. But the lady asked her, I gave a few questions by email, and she said to her, what's your favourite affirmation of all the affirmations? And she said, this is Louise Hay's favourite affirmation. And we have this on a recording, actually. It's beautiful to hear her voice. All of life loves me and supports me was the one that she used all through her life,
All of life loves me and supports me.
Yeah, that was her favourite affirmation. And I use it myself at times,
I am so writing that on my mirror when I get home. She was, as you said, the affirmation queen. She had affirmations all over her house. I've done a lot of Hay House writers courses over the last 3 years, getting my book out. I do them mainly, I've written my book, but I still do all the courses because I love hearing all the knowledge and the wisdom of Reed Tracy, and as he talks about Louise Hay and Wayne Dyer, and the extraordinary wisdom that they've published as a publish house. And she wrote her first book at 60. Heal Your Life, 60 years old, and she wrote her last book at 90. And that is extraordinary. And I keep entering my book into the Hay House writing competition. And to write a book proposal is blooming hard work. It is pages and pages and pages and words and words and words. And so I joked with Reed Tracy on the last course I did, and I said, if I don't win soon, I'm going to be 60 and I'm going to have to open Lay House Publishing instead of Hay House Publishing. That might be another job for next year.
Go for it.
Do you think you would ever open a publishing house?
A publishing house, no, but I feel called at the moment I've just come across a series of books that I think are going to be very big, and they are channel books by a lady here in Ireland, and they're about the fact that we're moving to a maternal universe, a kind of a universe of care, and this is why I think the feminine is so strong at the moment, and the masculine finding its place. And she talked about a balancing, not that we go from paternal to maternal, that we meet in the middle. But the swing is to the maternal right now. This is why I think the patriarchal is clamouring for control, because it doesn't know its place. And I read the books in a week, and they're absolutely brilliant. And I just thought, I now have a few contacts in the publishing world, and I thought I should shop this book. So I went to the lady, the author, and I said, I'm not a book agent, but I will represent you with this book. So we're going to do that. And I think you're going to see those books. I really get the feeling they're going to be big, I just get this feeling. So I would like, not a publishing house, but I, like yourself, would like to write maybe someday. I got a title last year, was How to Live a Positive Life. It's a simple title, but I thought it was a really...
And beautiful. And incredibly important.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have joy in your life, if you don't have positivity, you have nothing. You have fear. That's it. It's so incredibly important at this moment in history. All these beautiful people that have come together on this planet, and I've said it many times, there are 8 billion of us for a really good reason, and we're all finding our purpose, and we're all coming back to be here and just go, oh yeah, bring it on, new world coming. So it's been a tricky 3 years.
Yeah.
Our patience and our faith has been pushed to the absolute hills. And what is your feeling? What's your gut feeling about how the world can move forward from here and what's going to happen? Have you got anything that you'd like to share here? What's kind of, I know you channel quite a lot, so, and I do love a good channel, much better than the BBC.
Yes.
So what kind of comes up? What are you channeling in here?
Well, when I hear what's coming through, I like with some of the experiences I've had lately and this, I was telling Barbara this last night that when we had the venue pulled the other day and it was a bit tricky and we had to reorganise another venue, I thought, so what do I do now? And the vibe was, you hone your own frequency, you focus on what it is that you want, and you hold fast and you hold steady. And you do this in all aspects of life, And I thought, and then I heard a voice say to me, turn the other cheek. And I said, when I was a kid, I used to hear that phrase that Jesus said, supposedly. And I always thought it was a bit weak. And the voice said to me, it's not weak. It's about turning the cheek, giving no attention to that.
Yeah.
No attention. And then when you turn the cheek, you focus on where you're going. And that's the real definition of turning the other cheek. And the other aspect I got was about awareness. And I was on holidays, and I think sometimes when I'm flying, I can find it a bit stressful, And I just heard a voice say to me, you are the awareness behind the thoughts. And I thought, well, that's Eckhart Tolle, I've heard that before. And they said, we're going to say it again, because you're not getting it. And I said, okay, go again. And they said, if you're the awareness behind the thoughts, that's all you are. It's not that you have to, drop the thought, ignore the thought. You're just the awareness, full stop. So almost like there is no thought. It's just it. And I start saying it as an affirmation. I start saying, I am the awareness behind the thoughts. And when I said it, I feel like we're in a Netflix special when we're in the outside world, right? We're in this, I don't like to use the word chaos because I find it a bit cliched. Every teacher or all of us, we're going around saying chaos. Therefore, I think we're contributing to the chaos in a weird way, even though we don't mean to, But we live in this, we all say crazy world, chaotic world. The inner world is the control panel. If you get that right, the outer world must reflect that back. That's every single spiritual teacher I've ever spoken to has told me that information. And I hear it from my own higher self, I suppose. And I feel now that we need to get to a place where we don't just say that conceptually, we don't just say that as a theory, we live that. We absolutely step into that. And if we can do that, the world must reflect back our inner state.
Yeah, no, I believe that to be true. And people are waking up in the largest numbers ever in history, I believe, to these extraordinary powers that have been hidden from us for generations. And I really do truly believe that this is a very exciting time in history. And I think it's going to have its challenges over the next few years. But I have nothing but faith now that a new world is coming, and it's going to be good. And I just want to say to you, if you'd have looked back to the Paul in the pub, living the crack, is that the right saying? Living the crack?
Having the crack.
Having the crack. I was going to live in the crack. Oh, having the crack. And you'd have said to that Paul then, do you know what? In a few years' time, you're going to be sitting there talking about spirituality and your connection to outer worlds and your higher self and your inner spirit and everything. What would that Paul have said?
Do you know what's weird? I was always open. It would be bonkers to him, but I was always an open kind of person. And I remember as a young kid feeling like, not this thing of changing the world or something. I just felt like I want to do something that's a bit offbeat, just something different, That was my desire. So am I surprised by what I'm doing now? I am, but I'm just like, it's been such a lovely it's evolved so beautifully that, and when I look back on my old and having the crack and all, there was something intrinsic in me then that's still here now, that sense of fun, that sense of joy, that sense of having the crack, It's a big thing in Ireland, There's a warmth here. You probably felt it, and people are quite beautiful, Yeah. And there's a lot of heart here. And we lost that in the last couple of years. I won't say we lost it as in it disappeared, but it retreated, But there's something in this land, there's something in these people, and it's if it ignites, it's just gonna woof, I can feel the power in it, as I talk about it,
I know. As I said, exciting times. Paul, can you please tell our audience where they can find you, how they can participate in this and join together with all the wonderful people that you're putting out?
Yeah, lovely. The website is positivelife.ie, and I think pretty much everything is there. We're all over social media because we're just, I think the website is great though because you've got all the events coming up. You can subscribe to the magazine, have it delivered to you. It's a print magazine. We only do 4 a year, so it's quarterly. The rest of the time, we're kind of doing online stuff and events. And positivelife.ie.
And you have your newsletter as well.
Yeah, you can subscribe to a newsletter as well. And,
which I have done.
Yeah. Cool.
And I think it's just really important to say to our audience that, and I'm going to talk to camera here because it is really important to sign up and join people's newsletters at the moment. YouTube have just changed their guidelines so that nothing can be published on YouTube about natural health that isn't in alliance with the WHO, the World Health Organization. And a lot of the work that Paul's doing and a lot of the work that I'm getting out isn't in accordance with those guidelines. And it's becoming harder and harder for us to reach people. And so it really is important now that if people want to know this information, that they actually take some control over their life and join in with this evolution, it's not revolution, this evolution of self and awareness and connection with people. Would you agree?
Absolutely, yeah. I think, I saw that today, the video was taken down.
This is last night's video with Barbara O'Neill.
Yeah, it was taken down. So we did a live stream of it and it was taken down this morning. And, I think there's a feeling in the air of like, people are saying, I was even chatting to people about it and they're like, oh, it's mad, it's mad, isn't it? We're living in this world with censorship. But I think we kind of need to take a stand now, And I said earlier, turn the other cheek, I'm not into resistance, but like, if people are introducing guidelines that are completely rubbish, take your business elsewhere. That's the most effective thing to do, When Joe Rogan had this experience, He went to Spotify and he said, listen, this is what I want to talk about. YouTube don't like me talking about it. And because he has such a following, he was able to pull that off. But imagine if all of us who believe in freedom of speech joined together and took our business elsewhere. They would soon sit up and notice, you know.
Absolutely, and I know that Rumble is getting a lot of information out.
Yeah.
I'm able to put my podcasts out in full on Rumble. Twitter, less so. I had an account taken down, a brand new account for the Wellness Way podcast taken down off Twitter. It was my first post. I hadn't commented on anybody or liked any posts or retweeted, but put one out, and we can't get any explanation as to why it's been taken down, but it has. You know, TikTok taken down. You know, it's really tough there, but you know, Rumble's holding the line and still getting information out. So people just need to come and find us, really, don't they?
Yeah, and I was talking to a guy today, and he said you can encode your own website so that you're kind of, you know, your own world. I think some people have done that as well. Probably worth doing that as well, you know. But Rumble, I think, yeah, shout out to Rumble. And Elon Musk, what's going on? We thought he was freedom of speech.
Don't know.
He's taking your tweet down.
I've asked the question. I can't get an answer. But you know,
Can you get Elon on the phone there, dude?
Hi, Elon.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, Elon Musk. We'd like to ask the question, please, love. We'll put that clip out. Oh, Paul, thank you so much for what you're doing at the moment. Thank you for bringing Barbara O'Neill to Ireland, for getting me on a plane when I didn't think I was going to do that again, for bringing the Wellness Way podcast on tour. I am incredibly grateful to you, and I hope I see you soon. Come and see us in the UK. Come and do a UK tour anytime you like. I'll give you a base, and we will just keep going. But you know, bless you for everything you're doing.
I'm right back at you, Philly J. And thanks for inviting me as a guest. I loved it. It was really good fun.
Well, you're in Ireland. What can I say? All right, lovely people. I'll see you next week, and next week I will be interviewing the amazing Barbara O'Neill and her husband Michael for The Real O'Neill. Thank you.